guys, I'm with Adam and Steven from Cave to talk about the new album Heavy Pendulum, which will be released on May 20th on Relapse Records. So thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So first of all, how are you and how do you feel a few days before the release of the album?
I'm doing good, and I'm just enjoying this whole rollout process of hyping the record and making music videos. You know, Caven hadn't made music videos in a long time, and then all of a sudden we seem to have managed to make 4 music videos in the span of 2 months. So that's been fun. And so far, the reception to the new songs, the singles and the videos has been good, and working with Relapse has been great. So just enjoying it.
Good. So, what happened since final transmission and after Caleb passed away? When did you begin to write some new stuff? When did you have the envy to write some new stuff?
We did some touring for final transmission to 2019, like into the beginning of 2020. So we really kind of did the whole, benefit shows for Caleb's family, then the whole kind of touring cycle for that record. And we finished up right around 2020 when the world kind of shut down. And we were kind of in pandemic times like everyone else for a long time. And we just kind of started communicating about doing another Caven record. And Steve just started sending demos for us to go through. And that's really how the conversation started during lockdown, with Steve circulating demos amongst the 4 of us. Just kind of people picking songs and what songs they would like to work on, and then having conversations about how we would get together safely for everyone's, wearing masks and things like that. The first conversations of like, trying to get together to make music during, unsteady times during the pandemic. But it was a gradual process. We kind of also started trading recording via separate, like remote recordings early on as well, kind of trading demos and trying to adding to demos, not in the same room together. But it really started to get rolling once we started meeting up and getting together. Steve was commuting from New York, which was a whole nother dynamic involved, just from during, again, pandemic times, traveling from New York City up to Boston. So it was a different experience this time around, but I'm glad we made the most of those unsteady times,
Okay. And how was Nate's arrival, and how did you work together on this album?
Well, Nate was on board to, join up with Caven to do the benefit shows for the Schofield family back in 2018 into, I think, 2019 as well, when we made it overseas for the London show. And I think just putting the wheels back on the band, all the work that we put into it, and reconnecting with Caven in a new way, I think just spoke to everybody involved. And we had a conversation with Nate where we asked him to join the band, and thankfully he did. It was hard to imagine what Caven would be without Nate. It was hard to imagine even moving forward in that realm. So we're very fortunate, very lucky. And he was super involved in the writing process for the record. He was very engaged, and right off the bat, when he heard the demo for Blinded by a Blaze that I sent the band very early on in the writing process, he really took to that song in particular. Felt like that could have been like a roadmap to do just new stuff in general with the band. And then writing for his voice was really cool. Just having his vocal power and just vibe in mind as I was coming up with just lyrics and ideas and arrangements. He wrote a song on the record, Amaranthin, which is like this super cool, high-powered rocker. And, we worked in some of Caleb's lyrics. So that's a very sort of cool, creative hybrid going on there. And Nate's just a real force in his own right. Great songwriter, great musician, and he's been a friend of ours for a long time. He was also a good friend of Caleb's. And all that just meant a lot moving forward, both just as a band, like in general, and also like as a creative entity at this point in Caven's career.
So you said that the lockdown, the COVID-19, etc., has an impact on the way you work, and you had to do things. And did have the situation an impact on the theme of the songs? Did you were you inspired of this situation to write the album, or and what are the songs, the meaning of the songs?
Oh man, I mean, I guess I should let Steve take this one. I honestly.
That's fine. Well, I think lockdown affected all of us in a way that, sort of like what Adam touched upon earlier. It had an influence on our working process, and I think it made us a lot closer, just generally speaking, once we were able to sort of overcome the initial fear of gathering together. And, we've known each other for 20 plus years now and been doing this for a long time. And it was very strange to get in a room together and really not know how to behave at the height of the pandemic, and, sort of figuring out boundaries and establishing rules and overcoming this fear of just gathering together, I think was really influential on the making of the record. Plus, our calendars were just completely wiped out. We had nothing on the books, no touring, nobody was doing anything, no parties, no gathering. Some people were out of work. And I think that just lent itself to a high degree of focus that Caven hasn't experienced in a long time when it comes to the writing process. So, I know that's sort of outside the content of the lyrics, but just to sort of give you an idea of like where our heads were at when we were in our sort of creative mode, putting this stuff together. I think it just allowed us to focus more acutely, from a song to song basis. So like each song I feel like is very concentrated in its own theme and its own vibe. Oftentimes in the past, like things could be sort of lyrically obtuse, and it's almost like a line from one song could just be in a line from another, it could be in another song, and things were sort of interchangeable. And I wanted to avoid that this time around. I wanted like very concentrated visual song titles, and then beneath that, I wanted the lyrics to sort of read like a story, or sort of like an effect of sorts, or like a creation of that song title in word form. And so using a lot of action, just moving things along. This is all just like a very heightened sense of focus that I think being in lockdown gave me as a writer. And I think that probably rubbed off on the other guys as well, as far as like everybody's just creative focus being super locked. And, crazy shit was happening in 2020. It was a wild year, and there are themes in the record that certainly reflect, I think, what was happening around us. And how could it not? Like, the news was in our face like 24 hours, and people were scared. And in the States, it was an election year, and you had, protests over a wrongful death that sort of burned on through an entire summer. You had this pandemic, this thing that nobody really could understand at first, and it was very scary, and people were afraid to go outside, and felt like, what is this, like acid rain, So yeah, some of that definitely creeped into the lyrics, and I think it makes for a more interesting listening experience overall.
And you recorded the album with Kurt Ballou from Converge. How did you come to work together?
We've known Kurt since we were in high school, and we recorded Until Your Heart Stops with Kurt, 20 years ago. So it's kind of a good full circle. We've all recorded with Kurt in different bands. I did a record with my band Clouds. Nate's done Doom Riders with Kurt. Steve's done Mutoid Man. So we've all recorded with Kurt over the years. We just haven't done a proper Cave-In record with Kurt in a long time. I think we did some demos for Antenna. That's might have been the last time we recorded with Kurt as Cave-In, but this was the first time that we went in to do a proper album with Kurt in a long time, and I'm so happy we did. I mean, Kurt's in such an amazing place in his career, knowing where he started off in his parents' garage to what he's built in God City in Salem, Massachusetts. And it was he was feeling out the same things as us, getting through the pandemic. How are we going to record a record in a pandemic, wearing masks and not doing vocals in the studio, these new ways of working because of the pandemic. But I think Kurt really knew what was at stake. He knew Cave-In had to make a great record. He knew it was a big deal that Nate was in our band now, and he was really engaged. He really helped guide us, keep us within a lane, and he had really great ideas along the way. And I'm really thankful. And I remember just doing live takes and coming back into the control room and listening back. And I said to him, like, Kurt, I haven't heard Cave-In sound like this in a long time, because our previous recordings have been Renegade practice space recordings. So I hadn't heard Cave-In sonically sound like that in a very long time, and it was powerful. And I think we leveled up because of Kurt. I'm just so happy we got to work with him again, and it was it's like I'm so happy to still have that friendship and the community of Cave-In Converge, like this community that we've been a part of for such a long time.
Okay. So you released a new reality with a video clip. As a French, I maybe not understand everything on the songs, but the songs doesn't seems very funny, unlike the video. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Sure. Well, like I said earlier, Cave-In hadn't made a music video in over 15 years at the point that we were in discussions about making our first video in a long time. And there was some back and forth about what the content should be, what the vibe should be. And I think apart from the song itself and the content of the lyrics of New Reality and just the overall feeling of where that song sort of sits in terms of its message, I think we just wanted to go into making a music video with the idea of just having fun and doing something sort of lighthearted and kind of poking fun at the fact that, we're known as this space rock band. So we were going to do something sort of spacey looking, but like also janky and, sort of budget looking. I mean, basically it's us, discovering all these materials in the basement of God City to build a spaceship in the live room, without Kurt knowing what's going on. We just wanted to have fun, and, music videos, they actually do take a lot of work. We forgot, because it had been 15 years since we made one. But I think the team that we had involved was great. I think in a way it's sort of like a tribute to what Cave-In's sort of established over the years. In terms of what people know of Cave-In as far as our sound and how people sort of categorize us. But, we were cool making fun of that a little bit. And Relapse was into the idea and the treatment. And as far as the song goes, it's definitely sort of a memoir or a remembrance of Caleb. And it sort of touches upon this new reality of Cave-In, a new reality of our lives and moving forward without Caleb on the earthly plane, but, also celebrating his music and our friendship with him and our relationship with him and all that he's given to, I guess, music fans of his and Caven and Old Man Gloom and Zozobra, all the music that he's put out there. So, you know, in this one song, we tried to sort of encapsulate that to some degree. And, you know, it was designed to be like an obvious track one of the record, like really hard hitting, just coming out of the gate strong. And it has one of Caleb's riffs in it. There's a riff that he wrote from back in the White Silence days that you can hear over the verse. So we thought that was kind of cool to just have a little bit of Caleb's hand in the writing process there. And yeah, I think all of that sort of came together to be sort of like a very powerful statement as far as like what Caven is all about at this point in our lives.
Okay. And is Kurt really a grumpy guy, and did let you destroy the studio, as it mentioned behind the video?
Is Kurt a grumpy guy? I mean, he's as grumpy as we are. You know what I mean? You know, I really appreciate that he let us use his studio. I don't think Kurt realized the scale of production that was coming into his studio. I don't know if we'll ever be able to do a video again in his studio, but I think he's happy with the end product, and that's all that matters.
Okay. Okay. And what about the beautiful artwork of the album? Who made it, and what can you tell us?
That was designed by Richie Beckett. It was we were supposed to play some shows at St. Vitus pre-pandemic, and Richie had reached out about making a show poster for those particular shows that we were supposed to play. Those shows never happened because the pandemic hit, but he sent us the artwork, and we're like, man, this is like so much better than a show poster. We should use this as the cover of our next record. This is amazing. And also we all agreed upon it, like also being four different individuals in Caven, we don't entirely agree upon everything right away. And right away, all of us were like, that should be the cover of the next record. And it also was like a mission statement, because we had written no songs for this new record yet that we had an album cover for. So we knew if we were going to make a record, it had to be as good as this artwork that we had already seen and decided this will be the cover for our next record. And, you know, I'm so happy with that cover. I mean, it's so powerful. It's so thought provoking. I mean, every time I look at it, I think something different about it. You know, it's a whole new level for us.
Okay. So let's talk about live music. Will we have the chance to see you in France?
We're working on some dates now. We want to get overseas as soon as possible. It's been a while since Caven has done some proper touring, covering, you know, a large part of Europe. And yeah, the sooner the better.
So we hope so.
Yes,
we do.
Okay, so thank you very much for this interview. And yeah, I hope that we will see you soon in France or in Europe somewhere.
Hope to be there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. You. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Ha ha ha!